recording. Greetings and welcome everyone to Covenant Calendar Club. We are so glad that you are here this evening and pray that you'll be richly blessed by the words of Yeshua as they come out of the mouth of our instructors this evening. But before we get started, we want to give you a big warm shout out for those watching on YouTube and say, shall we everyone? Shalom!
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. And with that being said, I want to extend another invitation to you for those that want to connect with us in the discussions after the teaching. Be sure to visit studythecalendar.com and you can connect right from there. But we're going to go ahead and get started this evening, and I'm going to turn the screen over to Tim and Jeanette. Take it away, brother. It's all yours.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you. Praise Yahuwah. I want to praise Yahuwah big time this week. I've had a very, very important prayer answered. I have work once again, so that's huge. Absolutely huge. Thank you, Yahuwah. I want to thank Jeanette, my bride, because she does the things on the side that allows me to put in time on this PowerPoint. And I want to thank Charlene for all the massive amount of work that she has done working together with me. It's been a great learning experience, all these PowerPoints. Tonight, as we said earlier, there's going to be about 25 slides of review. It's needed because we've been so long since we touched on it last. It's just kind of a reminder of what's the points, the base points that we're looking at, and how we're going to compare this to the Enoch calendar. So with that, let's go. This is the Song of Joshua's Sickle, and we have found that sickle is an all incredibly important unit to determine time. Exposing another counterfeit count. Another one. Yeah, it's another one. Enoch's Shavuot count of 57. What 57? I thought the scriptures said 50. What happened to the Torah's 50-day count to Shavuot? Why does Enoch have 57? Covenant calendar studies reveal mysteries. Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of Yahuwah to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Colossians 1:26. Even the mystery which hath been hid from ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his saints. Yes, things are being revealed again and again, repeatedly. It's just absolutely astounding what we are learning. When a truth is found first, a mystery can be revealed. Today's mystery will address the issue of uncleanliness in the book of the law. Many that hold to the Enoch calendar understand the mystery of the Melchizedek priesthood, but has something important been missed along the way? Is there something that is missing? Part number 5, this is mapping the discussion topics. And as I said again, there's lots of review. The first 5 slides are going to be reviewing Joshua's Sickle Part 4, including the locked and or unlocked calendars. We're going to go over that. Slide 6, Joshua's Torah wave sheaf placement. And the next one, B, is going to be the lunar Sabbath wave sheaf placement. That's relating to Abib 16. C is going to be Noah's flood account and the second month of festal year, not civil year. And D, the 50-day Omer count to Mount Sinai at Shavuot. And E, 99-day Omer count to the Golden Calf event. What? Golden Calf event? Yes, we're going to go have a look at this again. 99-day Omer count to the Golden Calf event. And F, Hebrew secret for 50-day Omer count. And G, Enoch review of wave sheaf to Pentecost count. And then we go to section 12.1. This will be slides 29 to 33. The first Enoch reason for Abib 26 placement. Date takes priority. Please note that word date. It is a different color for a very specific reason. And the next new section is 12.2, and it is the second Enoch reason for Abib 26 placement. And we're looking at the issue of uncleanliness. Does Enoch's Omer count of 57 days have anything to do with uncleanliness? A day and or a date for calendar studies is a principle comparable to a lock. This principle will either lock a calendar or unlock a calendar. A locked calendar is fixed. An unlocked calendar has variable dates. So which one is scriptural and which one is not? Next coming up is going to be a 7-part review. So hope you can follow me. This is Joshua's Omer count, and he places the wave sheaf on Abib 15. On the 14th is the Sabbath and Passover. This is according to Joshua in the first month of covenant calendar. You'll see there, Passover on the 14th. Note that it's on a 7th-day Sabbath. Please note that carefully. And wave sheaf is on the first cycle after the 7th-day Sabbath. And it is also the first unleavened bread Sabbath. That's on the 15th also. And we see in the first month, we see week number 1 and week number 2 completed. Completed weeks, very, very important. If there's 7th-day Sabbath does not complete a week, then that week is not complete. It's not finished and does not serve its purpose. And here's Joshua's second month. We see weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6 completed in the second month. Now we come to the third month. And in the first week and ending of the week, we see week number 7 is completed. And on the 4th day of the month, we see the 50th count. That's where Shavuot is. That's the day after the 7th-day Sabbath. How will the wave sheaf count compare on the lunar Sabbath calendar? We're going to take a little bit of a detour here, and we're going to look at a lunar calendar. And this one is the end of review A. Here's review B, Joshua's first month, and we're going to compare it to the lunar first month. This is the first example. There's going to be another one coming. Both calendars correctly place Passover on the 14th day of the month. Passover on the 14th day of the month. Both calendars have first unleavened bread Sabbath on the 15th day of the first month. You see that? However, the 15th day on the lunar Sabbath calendar is also their weekly Sabbath. Therefore, wave sheaf must follow the Sabbath the 15th and is always locked to Abib 16. So you see my cursor right here? The wave sheaf must follow the weekly Sabbath. On the lunar calendar, the 15th is their weekly Sabbath. So the wave sheaf must always be locked onto the 16th of the first month. Now we have learned elsewhere that there is a very serious problem being locked to the 16th. This is a locked calendar. And it is locks onto their counterfeit. What about this example number 2? Joshua's first month. Again, compare to the lunar first month. Okay, we look at Passover on the right-hand chart. Passover the 14th is correctly on the 14th, but what day of the week is it on? It's on the 6th cycle, but yet on Joshua's, it's on the 7th cycle, on the 7th day Sabbath. Why is that? How can the lunar calendar demand that? It matters not which day of the week the lunar Sabbath is found on. Their 15th is always the first Sabbath of unleavened bread, and Wave Sheaf always follows on the 16th. Remember, this is a very serious counterfeit. Why is it counterfeit? Because in the scriptural account, Joshua has his Passover on the 7th day Sabbath. Yet on the lunar calendar, on their fixed calendar, the Passover is on the 6th cycle of the week, and the 15th is the weekly Sabbath. That is in direct opposition to what's written in the scriptures. That's why it's a counterfeit, and it is a locked calendar. It cannot be changed. The lunar Sabbath calendar has their wave sheaf all locked up. When the 15th always houses the unleavened bread Sabbath and their weekly Sabbath, then wave sheaf must always be celebrated on the 16th of their first month. And what happens? It denies Joshua's Torah testimony. It's in stark opposition to the scriptures. A locked calendar. And it in turn, this also means their wave sheaf is forever locked and or married to the 16th, just as many counterfeit moon month calendars. This now directly links to the death of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai on Lag BaOmer. Notice that 33 number there. That should raise a red flag immediately. Why? On the day of Rashbi's death, he revealed the mystical dimension of the Torah known as the Kabbalah, a form of Jewish mysticism. And that is the occult and is witchcraft. And yet, this 16th is directly linked to that, directly. This is the end of Review B. Let's look at the next one. Review C. Some claim Noah's second month is in the fall of the year. What does this claim have to do with any wave sheaf date and Omer count? I want you to bring your eyes to the very bottom column. We've got it clearly marked out there in colors. The last calendar date clue in the flood account was examined in comparison to the Omer count on 6 different calendars. Now we have marked the blue boxes, the second month and the 27th day. Why? Why are those marked? I'm not going to tell you. Not yet. It's coming up. Yahusha's Passover on his covenant calendar had a sign and clue. What was found? Yahusha's ministry. From water to fire in 70 weeks discovers a very unique clue on one of Noah's dates. Yes, one date from the flood is extremely important, very highly critical. Here it is. Remember I said on the 27th of the second month? What is that? Why is that there? This is the year for Yahusha. It is the Wednesday Passover, or the fourth cycle Passover, and the first fruits after the 7th day Sabbath. Yahusha's Passover is the only calendar where the 40th day of the Omer count links to the second month, the 27th day, pinpointing the one true Messiah, or Mashiach. This date right here, the 27th of the second month, lands us on the 40th day that Yahusha was on this earth. That's the 40th day of the Omer count. And what happened on that 40th day? something to think about. I would like to show you this lock over here. This is an unlocked calendar. The covenant calendar is unlocked. This date here can only pinpoint Yahusha on an unlocked calendar. This calculation can be found only in Yahuwah's covenant calendar. Here we are again. Yahusha's Passion year on the covenant calendar is the only combination that can satisfy all these requirements. Number one, the fourth cycle cross, or Wednesday as we know it in pagan terms. And number two, the 3 days and 3 nights, that gets fulfilled and accomplished with precision. And number three, the Sabbath resurrection, that relates directly to the dawn start of the day. Very, very revealing. And number four, the first cycle wave sheaf. And it houses the 40th day of the Omer count on the 27th day of the second month. And remember I asked you what happened on that day? That is the day of Yahusha's second ascension. That flood date, way back there when Noah left the ark, that date is recorded specifically and very clearly. And that date is brought forward and outlines the day that Yahusha left this earth. That was when he ascended. No other calendar that I know of, or I don't believe Charlene knows of one either, no other calendar can line up that date with the ascension on the 40th day. They don't even come close. There is only one, and it is the covenant calendar. This is strong evidence that Noah's flood event began in the second month of the festal covenant calendar, not the fall. There are those that would like to say that the flood happened in the fall. Well, look at this 27th day of the second month. That lines up with the 40th day Yahushua was on this earth. That's a pretty good clue that the flood was in the spring. This is end of review C. And here we are on review D. Yahuwah's 50-day Omer count out of Egypt. I would like you to look here at the Passover. It was on the third cycle of the week in this time. The Passover was on the third cycle on a Tuesday. The 15th to the 17th is the journey to the wilderness to worship. Remember, Yahuwah said that they were to travel 3 days into the wilderness, and that is what Moses asked Pharaoh for. He said, we are going to travel 3 days so that we can sacrifice. There it is, your 3 days, 15, 16, and 17. 17, the Red Sea crossing at night of the 6th cycle, right here. This is a night crossing. What comes after the 6th cycle? Isn't that the 7th day Sabbath? Yes. When they come out of the Red Sea, this is where they were celebrating. They were celebrating their salvation at dawn. On the 19th, over here, the wave sheaf. This is when the wave sheaf pattern would have been celebrated. No, the wave sheaf has not been instituted at that time. Yet, the appointed time, the date, was still well in effect. It is a Kodesh, or holy, or set apart appointed time. It is the pattern. So in that week, we see the first week completed. This is on the Omer count, the first week of the Omer count completed. And the summary is the first month had 15 days of travel. How about the second month? There we see weeks 2 and 3 completed. 15th was the arrival at the wilderness of Shin, and the 16th is the arrival of quail at Sabbath evening. And The 17th to the 22nd is the first manna week. Remember, you're going to eat quail at night, and in the morning, you're going to have manna. Well, this is when it came. There's the manna. There's your week when they were tested to see if they could follow Yahuwah's will. And there is the seventh day Sabbath when they gathered no manna. In the summary, the second month realizes 6 completed weeks to the Omer count number 42. 6 completed weeks. Yahuwah's Omer count out of Egypt to the 50th day, Moses' third month. Now, this is interesting. Some say there is no momentous event in the third month of Exodus 19 to 20. Would Moshe agree with that? What happened in Moses' third month? On the first to the 6th is the Omer count 43 to number 48 in the third month. The 7th, that is the 49th day of the Omer count, and it is 7 completed weeks. What comes after 7 completed weeks according to the scriptures? Is it not the 8th day, the 50th day of the Omer count, the pattern at Mount Sinai, which would be Shavuot? Moshe receives Book of the Covenant. People accept Yahuwah's covenant for the third time. It wasn't just once, wasn't twice, but 3 times they accepted Yahuwah's covenant. All that Yahuwah has said, we will obey. Interesting. And it is also when the blood ratification of the Book of the Covenant and the people. That is when the event started to begin. Note, tracking every covenant calendar count of Yahuwah from the first month to the second month, then to Shavuot in the third month, brings the calendar count to exactly the 50th day with precision. And if you haven't looked at that study that we have out on the Exodus to Shavuot at Sinai, if you haven't seen that and studied it, I highly recommend it. The detail that is in there is absolutely phenomenal. When we write here that is exactly the 50th day with precision, that is not an exaggeration. It is absolutely incredible how Yahuwah orchestrated their exodus to Mount Sinai. There is no guessing that the events of Exodus 19 to 24 reveal the Shavuot appointed time pattern. Yes, it was a very set apart day, the 50th day. The count is definitely about the reminder of Yahuwah's everlasting instructions for a nation, not just individual patriarchal families. This is the end of review D. And here is review from part 4. 99-day Omer count out of Egypt. Yes, you read it. A 99-day Omer count out of Egypt? Why 99 days? Where does this come from and what does it lead to? Well, there is the 7th week completed. It is the 49th Omer count at Mount Sinai. 7 by 7 completed. The 8th, that's the first day Omer count to add another 50 days to 49. Yes, another 50 days. Cannot find that in scriptures, but this is what we're told. Let's track the movements of Moshe in this new 1 to 50 count. And I would like to bring your attention here. This is very color coordinated. See this color here lines up directly with the 9 and 10, just to help you realize what the dates that we're talking about. The 9th and 10th, the covenant confirming meal with 75 witnesses. That's what's happened right here. The 11th to the 17th, Moshe and Joshua travel further up the mount. And then the 18th, Moshe travels alone to the top of the mount for 40 days. The last 13 days of the month, 3 are in the mount. The alternate Omer count now is at 72 days. What happens in the 4th month? Month number 4, days 1 to 5, right here, 1 to 5. This is 18 days in the mount, and it comes up to 77 days. That's a 77 count. Days 6 to 12 equals 25 days in the mount, and the count comes up to 84 days. Days 13 to 19 of the 4th month, there is 32 days in the mount, and that is 91 days in the count. And days 20 to 26 in the 4th month, there is now going to be 39 days in the mount that Moshe spent up there in the mount. And what is the Omer count? That is 98 days. Where does this lead? Day 27 in the orange right here. Day 27 is the 40th day of Moshe in the mount. There is your 99 days, your 99-day Omer count. Where does this lead us? What does it take us to? The Omer day count number 99 on the 27th day of the 4th month to align with a summer wheat harvest. Moshe returns after being at the top of Mount Sinai for 40 days. What does he find on this 99th day? The children of Yisrael had fallen into idolatry by worshiping the pagan trinity while professing to worship Yahuwah. This is what Moshe found when he came back down the mountain. Will you say no to 99? Why should we be worshiping a number 99 count if that's when they were worshiping the golden calf? Why should we give that any glory whatsoever in any way, shape, or form? Count me out on that one. A final decision. There's your 99th day, and it is the 40th. This golden calf actually represents the full worship of the false trinity. The round disc, that's Nimrod or Baal, and that's the sun god. The altar, that's Semiramis or Ashtoreth, the moon goddess. And the calf, that is Tammuz, the false Messiah. This is what they were worshiping on that day. Is it any wonder, if you look in the corner picture here, is it any wonder when you see Moshe holding up the tablets and he's about to destroy them? Why? Because the covenant has been destroyed, and he is showing that physically. He is some upset, and justifiably so. It is not feasible for a 99-day Omer count to be genuine for the giving of the blood-ratified covenant written on the stone tablets. This is the end of review E. And here is review F, the true Pentecost count in the Torah. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Would that be 7 times 7 equals 49 days for the first part of the count? Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, would that be the 49th day? Shall ye number 50 days. Add another 50 days. Example, could a 99-day Omer count be true after what was discovered? What about this even unto? Isn't this your statute of limitations? Isn't this the point that should be recognized where you stop your seven completed weeks. We're going to look a little bit closer than that. Considering the Hebrew word for unto, 5704, ad. Let's look a little closer. Leviticus 23:16, you count 50 day. Many feel that English requires an S here. However, the original Hebrew does not indicate a plurality. In other words, a single day cannot indicate 50 days or an additional 50-day count. It does not indicate that. It is speaking of one singular yom. Leviticus 23:16 makes no mistake that this precise day after the seventh completed Sabbath is specifying only one highly particular 24-hour cycle. I would like to bring you to this box here. You see these letters? Yom. Yom. One singular day. Now let's compare that. Yom is singular, not yomim with the mem suffix. It's not there. What would it look like if it had a suffix? If you look here, ul imim. Whoops, I messed that one up. I went too far. See the M, there's your M suffix on the end. And what does it say down here? And for days, that is your plural. Yet, in Leviticus 23:16, this is not seen. It is not plural. It is one specific 24-hour period. That's it. No more and no less. On the morning after seventh completed Sabbath, you count day 50. One specific yom, or day, and that is Shavuot, Yahuwah's harvest, according to the Hebrew Torah statute. Day 50, not 50 more days. This is the end of review F. Let's continue. Okay, it's going to get interesting now. Enoch's Omer count. This is the final review from part 3. Enoch's first month. There it is. The Passover is on the third cycle of the week. This is the key right here. Passover on the third cycle of the week. We need to remember this clearly. And the Abib 26 is the wave sheaf day on the Enoch calendar. When you count out the 15 to the 21, that's your unleavened bread feast. Yet, Enoch demands that the wave sheaf day is on the 26th, outside of the feast of unleavened bread. About in the third month. When we go to Enoch's third month, where is the wave sheaf? It is on the 15th of the month, the 15th date of the month. And it is 7 days later than what Moshe observed at Mount Sinai. So how can this be? What gives Enoch the right to move the wave sheaf day a week later? What gives him that right? On Enoch's calendar, dates and days of Sabbaths and feasts never change. Enoch's Pentecost is always on the 15th day of the third month. And there are two distinct reasons for this. And also, you see this lock? This is a fixed calendar. It does not move, it does not change. That's their Enoch's requirement for these dates. The wave sheaf is always on the 15th of the third month. That's not scriptural, by the way, but let's look at it. Moving to the third month, in context. And yes, I have that word highlighted and emphasized for a very specific reason, in context. Exodus 19:1. In the third month, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt, on this day, Yom, not date, but day, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. The same 24-hour cycle of the week as the actual exit from Mitzrayim. The exit occurred on a fourth cycle of the week. So we need to look at our context here. Context, context, context. The word is yom, or day. It does not say date. It's day. Why? What does this little thing mean so much? Well, it changes a lot. Now let's apply this to some charts and see how it fits Scripture. Here we are. One chart one side, second chart on the other side. Only one set of calendars demonstrate the same day. So here we are. We're the fourth cycle of the week, and it is the first Sabbath of unleavened bread, and it is the 15th of the month. This is their exit, but please note it's the fourth cycle of the week. And we go down to the third month when they're going to be entering the wilderness of Sinai. Again, they entered on the fourth cycle of the week, the same day, not date. How about Enoch? Here again, they exited Egypt. Their exodus started on the 15th of the month, on the fourth cycle of the week, or the fourth day of the week. But yet Enoch takes this date and demands that it's used over here for the wave sheaf. Where is this? It's on a first cycle. Very, very different from the day of the week. Very, very different. Over here is the same day of the week that they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Over here is the same date, but a different day. And it puts it a week later. Number one or number two? This is a decision that we need to come to. Are we going to accept the scriptural the same day? Or are we going to go with Enoch when he says the same date? We're going to be looking at this closer. First month, leaving Egypt on the 15th. Again, this is the exit on the fourth cycle of the week, on the first Sabbath of unleavened bread, and they came into the wilderness again on the fourth cycle of the week, the same day. The number one example is the only combination that will satisfy every statute requirement of this calendar puzzle. Yes, every statute requirement written in the scriptures. It's the only one. There is no other calendar that can satisfy every single statute and all the documentation in the scriptures. Israel entered the wilderness of Sinai on the same fourth cycle of the week as they left Egypt. It was the fourth cycle of the week. It was not to be the 15th date as Enoch demands. It was not the same date of the month, specifically the 15th. So Enoch is not scriptural. Once more, there's severe division, or opposition, I should say, to the scriptures. In the year of the Exodus, both covenant calendar and Enoch's calendar celebrate Passover on the third cycle, or Tuesday of the month. But only Yahuwah's 50-day Omer count ends at the 8th day of the 3rd month. So how can Enoch declare the 50th day of the Omer count to be on the 15th day of the 3rd month, exactly 1 week later? Who gives Enoch the authority to change Yahuwah's statutes? Who does that? Who is the author of confusion? Here we go with section number 12. The Enoch Shavuot count. The Dead Sea Scrolls use a 50-day Omer count. Is it the right count? Is the day locked on their Omer count? 50 or 57? Which is it? This is very, very serious. We need to determine this. Is their calendar locked, or is it a variable in it? Here's the review. This is taken from a Zadok calendar promotion, and it's the same basic idea as the Enoch calendar. If you look right here, where my cursor is, in the first month, on the 26th of the month, they say it is the wave of the sheaf offering. And in the 3rd month, on the 15th date of the month, is Shavuot. This is the Zadok and Enoch requirements for their calendar. The wave sheaf and Shavuot dates are always locked on Enoch's count. Scrutinizing Enoch's requirements. There are at least 2 reasons why Enoch delays the calendar or delays the Omer count by 1 full week after the covenant calendar. And here's section 12.2. And where is 12.1? Well, section 12.1 is coming next, but we're doing it a little bit different because it's a little bit easier to explain this way. So we're going to be seeing section 12.2 first, and after that, section 12.1. Section 12.2, why is Enoch's wave sheaf delayed 1 full week after covenant calendar's timing? Why? What is the reason? How can we determine the reason for this? If the wave sheaf is delayed, then obviously the Shavuot timing will be delayed an equal amount. And here's section 12.1. In the case of Enoch, is there another reason why Shavuot is delayed 1 week? In both cases, it is a misreading of content and context and a misunderstanding of a law. Remember, a day and or a date makes a difference. Introduction to Enoch's locked calendar. The placement of Shavuot will be discussed before the placement of wave sheaf to understand why these locked dates have been deliberately chosen. Section 12.1, Enoch's Shavuot. Enoch's Shavuot is rightly placed on the first cycle of the week, following a weekly Sabbath in this 3rd month. Enoch's Shavuot is locked to the 15th date of the 3rd month. And it's the timing and placement of the 50th day in the 3rd month is also largely influenced by the dated events of the Exodus. Will the incorrect Shavuot placement be a result of reading out of context? I'll read that again. Will the incorrect Shavuot placement be a result of reading out of context? Let's look at 12.2, Enoch's wave sheaf. It's rightly placed on the first cycle of the week, but it is following a weekly Sabbath, not the Sabbath within the Passover festival. The Sabbath within the Passover festival according to the requirements and statutes of the scriptures. So why is it is outside of the unleavened bread festival and the Passover festival? Who changed it, and where is their authority to do that? Enoch's wave sheaf is locked to the 26th date of the first month. And his wave sheaf determines the termination of the 50-day Omer count. When the start date is wrong, the Omer count will also be incorrect. Will the incorrect wave sheaf placement be a result of a misapplication of a book of the law command? A misapplication. We need to look for that. Section 12.1. In the case of Enoch, it's very obvious Shavuot is a week later than covenant calendar because for Exodus 19.1, Enoch assumed the day of arrival was the same date of the 15th departure rather than the same fourth cycle of the week being a Wednesday. See over here, Enoch takes this 15th date and uses that instead of the day of the week or cycle of the week. And he ends up down here, the 15th of the third month, a week later. And it is not the same day of the week. Here is a fourth cycle, and this is a first cycle. So there's more confusion coming from Enoch. This is the same date, but a different day. And that is a very big assumption. Assumption? Or is it a deliberate twist? Is it designed to remove us from Yahuwah's calendar? Would that be a reflection of Isaiah 14:13, I should say, where the adversary said that he was going to take control of the Moedim of Yahuwah? Is this one of those instances where the adversary has taken control and twisted and given deliberate deception to us? Something to think about. A day in Scripture or a date in Enoch? Where do you put your feet? Section 12.1, summary, Abib 26. What does this discovery mean? Except Enoch has absolutely no choice because the context of Exodus 19:1 was ignored. In order to keep Shavuot on the 15th date of the third month as their 50th day of the Omer count, Enoch's first day of the Omer count has to begin on Abib 26. There's no other way. It has to be that way to achieve what he wants. That is the first distinct reason. There is much more. Yes, there's a difference between a day and a date. And in this instance, it causes 1 week difference for the wave sheaf. Section 12.2. Why in the world would Enoch elect to delay wave sheaf 1 full week after covenant calendar, placing their festival outside the Passover festival? And yet Joshua makes it so incredibly clear that the wave sheaf must be observed within the festival of Yahuwah. How is it that Enoch can demand it's placed outside? Just imagine, the true Torah Omer count is delayed to the 57th day by Enoch. Will covenant calendar have an answer? I hope so. I'm which your covenant calendar does. Enoch's Passover placement delays Yahusha's resurrection one extra day to Abib 18 rather than the 17th. See, if we take this Enoch calendar and we go to the year that Yahusha was crucified, then Passover must be, according to Enoch, on the third cycle of the week. And yet, it doesn't fulfill Daniel's prophecy, the midst of the week. There can only be one midst of the week, and that is the fourth cycle of the week. Yet Enoch demands that all Passovers, without exception, are on the third cycle of the week. So what does this do for the 3 days and 3 nights that Yahusha was to be in the tomb? Enoch's 4 days and 4 nights ends here, because we know Yahusha arose on the Sabbath, on the 7th-day Sabbath. So that is 4 days and 4 nights up to here. Yet the scriptures say 3 days and 3 nights. So how does Enoch justify this discrepancy? Or can he? Maybe he just ignores it. Some say Enoch claims Yahusha was rendered unclean from touching or being a dead body. Therefore, he had to wait 7 extra days to be cleansed before being able to present himself as the wave sheaf. Thus, delaying this antitype festival 1 week to Abib 26th on their locked calendar. We are going to look at this. We're going to look at this week and the events that took place when Yahusha, or just after Yahusha arose. And we are going to be seeing if Enoch can accomplish the same. Where does this idea come from? And how could anyone dare to make such a claim that Yahusha was unclean upon his resurrection for 7 days? What does the Torah say about this type of uncleanliness? Would the red heifer know? Red heifer? What does a red heifer cow have to do with this type of uncleanliness? Well, it might surprise you. It might surprise you, but you're not going to see it tonight. Not yet. Numbers 19:11. He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean for 7 days. So this is what is being applied to Yahusha, so that they can command or demand that he was unclean for 7 days after he arose. Therefore, they can delay their wave sheaf ceremony for 1 week or 7 days to Abib 26. So what happened in those 7 days? What events took place in those 7 days? Charlene, you wouldn't happen to have your microphone on, would you? I should have given you notice earlier on this.
No, I sure do. I can go ahead with this.
Okay.
We want to look at some definitions about unclean according to Hebrew. There's going to be 2 sets here. And the first set is for unclean is 6945, Kadesh. Can talk about a sacred person, technically a male devotee, all look at by prostitution, to licentious idolatry, a sodomite is another word in the King James. 6172 is erva. From 6168, nudity, literally or figuratively disgrace, nakedness, shame, uncleanness. Another word for unclean is 5079, nida. This one means properly rejection. Why? By implication, impurity, especially personal, menstruation, or moral, which could be idolatry or incest. put apart, separation, filthiness. Those are some definitions for unclean, but we want to look at another set of definitions of unclean because we're comparing this to Yahusha. Does he match any of these definitions, and who is talking about for either one of these? So another set of definitions is 2931, tameh. It means foul in a religious sense, defiled, infamous, polluted, and unclean. Basically something to do in a spiritual sense. 2930 is also tamah, and it's the primitive root. It also means to be foul, especially in a ceremonial or a moral sense, contaminated. And the King James can have words like defile, pollute, be, make, be pronounced, and be unclean. So our question tonight is, will an understanding of these issues around uncleanliness or uncleanness uncover the Enoch teaching as true or counterfeit? Will we find out anything about that?
Pretty good question. I like that question. Does this apply to Yahusha? What was Yahusha's examples that are recorded in the scriptures? Want to read this, Charlene?
Yes. Well, there are different categories of uncleanness according to Torah. We're just doing very simple review tonight, or just a simple study. It can be unclean until the even of the same day. And you would not believe how many people bring up this issue for the day start. Or it can be unclean for 7 full days. There's kind of 2 categories here. In the scripture, the expected natural state of humans was always to be clean. That meant their clothing, their homes, and their household items. But because it was so easy to become contaminated, according to those Torah guidelines, it was no small matter to achieve and remain in a state of cleanness or cleanliness every single day. And there's a lot of scriptures about this in the Torah. But if one did become unclean, there were various provisions for cleansing, and it depended on the seriousness of the contamination. Sometimes remaining outside the camp until nightfall, and then sometimes you had to wash. It just depended. Other times of uncleanliness involved certain sacrifices, and you also had to wash. And this is interesting as well. The priests were under very strict guidelines due to their ministry at the tabernacle. They could attend the funerals of only their immediate members, their immediate family members. But the high priest, who was in charge of Yom Kippur, he was not even attended or given the permission to attend even funerals of their own family. So there was some really, really stringent guidelines around this issue of being clean.
That shows how important it was, all right. Why was it so important for Yahuwah's people to be clean? Each viewed the system of washings and sacrifices in accordance with worship in the temple, and each must ensure they were in a state of cleanliness or cleanness to safely approach divinity. This is seen clearly in Yahuwah's command that the people cleanse themselves today and tomorrow in preparation for Shavuot, or the 3rd day of this count at Mount Sinai. Death was and is the consequence of any defilement, thus exclusion from the temple worship or permanent exclusion from the camp. Or, finally, rejection of Yahusha's ultimate sacrifice. Yes, if there's uncleanliness, Yahusha's ultimate sacrifice would have been rejected. What does that mean for our salvation? Pretty somber thought. Unclean and or unclean till even. There's categories of simple uncleanliness. Leviticus 11, touching the dead body of an animal or touching the live body of an unclean animal. Leviticus 12, giving birth. Leviticus 13, skin diseases. Leviticus 13 and 14, leprous clothes, leprous items or dwelling places. Leviticus 15, bodily discharges. And number 6, Leviticus 11 and 15, touching someone or something unclean. Touching someone or something unclean. Number 7, Leviticus 21. Strict commands for the priesthood, especially death of a family members, funerals, and entrance of tombs or cemeteries. Entrance of tombs or cemeteries. Very, very interesting words. Consequences for cleansing. A basic rule of uncleanliness for these categories. The individual was unclean until evening. And requirements for cleansing. This is general. Clothes had to be washed. The person had to wash and bathe. And the individual was unclean only until the evening. And unclean earthen vessels must be broken. Why did uncleanness continue only to the even? The instructions to take care of any uncleanness varied a bit between categories. See the following example for touching of unclean animals, Leviticus 11, 24 to 47, as given by Matthew Henry's commentary concerning the dead carcasses of all the unclean animals. Everyone that touched them, the unclean animals, was to be unclean until evening, Leviticus 23, 24 to 28. This law is often repeated to possess them with a dread of everything that was prohibited, though no particular reason for the prohibition did appear, but only to the will of the lawmaker. Not that they were to be looked upon as defiling to the conscience, or that it was a sin against Yahuwah to touch them, the unclean animals, unless done in contempt of the law. In many cases, somebody must of necessity touch them to remove them, but it was a ceremonial uncleanness that they contracted, which for the time forbade them to come into the tabernacle or to eat of any of the holy things, or so much as to the converse familiarly with their neighbors. But the uncleanness continued only till the evening to signify that all ceremonial pollutions were to come to an end by the death of Christ in the evening of the world. And we must learn by daily renewing our repentance every night for the sins of the day to cleanse ourselves from the pollution we contract by them, these sins, that we may not lie down in our uncleanness. Even unclean animals they might touch while they were alive, without contracting any ceremonial uncleanness by it, as horses and dogs, because they were allowed to use them for service, but they might not touch them when they were dead, because they might not eat their flesh. And what must not be eaten must not be touched. Genesis 3:3. Unclean for 7 days. Here's a category for serious issue, Numbers 19. Touching a human dead body, being in the tent or tomb of the deceased, coming across a slain person in a field, or touching the bone of a dead human. Touching the bone of a dead human. Consequence for cleansing. A basic rule of uncleanness for this category. The individual was unclean for 7 full days. There's that red heifer again. Very interesting animal. He can tell us a lot, and we will be looking at that sometime in the future. Requirements for cleansing, Numbers 19, 17 to 20. And for an unclean person, they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereto in a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it upon the tent, and upon all the vessels, and upon the persons that were there, and upon him that touched a bone, or one slain, or one dead, or a grave. Notice those things that are emphasized. Very interesting stuff. And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, and on the 7th day he shall purify himself, and wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at even. There is the 7 days to be purified. But the man that shall be unclean, and shall not purify himself, that soul shall be cut off from the amongst the congregation, because he hath defiled the sanctuary of Yahuwah. The water of separation hath not been sprinkled upon him. He is unclean. So there's the requirements for cleansing. Does this apply to Yahusha when he arose? What is the examples of Yahusha? How long does one become unclean until evening? No, I should say, pardon me. How does one become unclean until evening, or unclean for a full 7 days? Did Yahusha do something before his death that would have rendered him unclean at his resurrection? Or is this uncleanness only to the cross and the abolishment of certain laws fulfilled with Yahusha's death? Besides Enoch, are there others that hold similar views? Was Yahusha unclean by touching an unclean person? Some say Enoch teaches this belief, but there are others that teach Yahusha became unclean in various circumstances. According to the book of the law, these ideas are formulated like this. Number 1, Mark 1:40-44, in the healing of the leper. Yahusha could have healed by a command. However, he chose to give his healing touch. In so doing, that touch made Yahusha ritually unclean. As a result, Yahusha was forced to stay out of populated areas because he was considered ritually unclean, being in contact with the leper. Either Yahusha was unclean, or at least near a violation of ritual custom and the law. Question: was Yahusha breaking his own laws? Did Yahusha become unclean by touching the leper? Did the people keep their distance from Yahusha for fear of becoming unclean, since they may have deemed him unclean? Did they stay away, or did they throng around him no matter what? Did Yahusha become unclean by touching the leper? Was Yahusha unclean by being touched by an unclean person or touching a dead person? Number 2, Mark 5:21-43, Jairus' daughter, the sick woman with an issue of blood. Yahusha, a crowd of people, is asked by Jairus to come and heal his daughter who is about to die. On the way, a ritually unclean woman touched his garment. According to custom, this touch would make Yahusha unclean. By the time he arrived at the home of Jairus, the daughter was dead. However, instead of speaking a word to raise her to life, he takes her hand and calls her to life. Yahusha break the ritual law according to Numbers 19. And here's Numbers 19:11-13. He who touches the dead body of anyone shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, then he will be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, he will not be clean. Whoever touches the body of anyone who has died and does not purify himself defiles the tabernacle of Yahuwah. Unclean by who touches who? More questions. Was Yahusha made unclean when he was touched by the woman with the issue of blood? According to the Torah law, did Yahusha make himself unclean by touching the dead girl? Did he defile the tabernacle of Yahuwah? Was Yahusha unclean before his Passover day? Should he have been cut off from Israel? If Yahusha broke his own Torah laws, can he still qualify as the true Mashiach? Or did Yahusha become unclean going from this, the crucifixion, to this, the tomb, to this, the resurrection? Did Yahusha become unclean in any one of these points? A closer look at Mark 5. The Pharisees. The Pharisees had the commendable aim of observing every detail of the law. A great part of their concerns would be tied up with the matter of clean and unclean. They enforced the most stringent rules upon the priests concerning purity. Avoiding contamination required continuous attention. Therefore, it is no surprise the Pharisees were scrupulous in avoiding contact with things and or people, dead or alive, who could convey uncleanness. Let's have a closer look at Mark 5, clean and unclean. This chapter deals with Yahusha's relationship to the various conditions of unclean through, number 1, man with unclean spirit that entered a herd of pigs. What was the outcome? The man is rid of the demon, and the whole neighborhood was rid of these unclean animals. Number 2, being touched by an unclean woman with an issue of blood. What was the outcome? The woman was not only healed, but saved by her faith. Number 3, touching a dead girl. He should be classed as unclean, but in touching a dead girl, and he was bringing her to life. What was the outcome? By Torah law, a dead body is unclean, and anything that touches it becomes unclean. Numbers 9, 11, and 16. Instead of Yahusha becoming unclean, he always drives out the uncleanness of all those who are suffering. Yahusha does not become unclean, but whoever he interacts with becomes clean. Yahusha was clean from this, at the crucifixion. He was clean up to that point. He was clean to this point of the tomb, and he was clean to this point when he was resurrected. If Yahusha was not clean, he could not take our filthy sins to the stake. Yahusha could not be laid in a filthy tomb. This was a new, clean place to rest. What does the cow have to do with that? The red heifer? What does a red heifer have to do with the tomb of Yahusha? You might be surprised. We are going to look at that in the future. Yahusha's clean body saw no putrefaction. He arose in the purest form of spotlessness. Putrefaction is when the small particles of the body break down from going rotten. Yahusha's body did not see any rottenness, any uncleanness of any kind whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. Yet, many insist Enoch claims Yahusha became unclean somewhere between the resurrection, between the tomb, and the resurrection. I think I messed that up. The crucifixion, the tomb, and the resurrection. Sorry. How did this happen? Did he become unclean? How did this happen if he did? If. These are Enoch week questions. If Yahusha had died on the dates of Enoch's calendar count, then we would find Yahusha's resurrection on the 18th. Yahusha's ascension on the 19th should by default be Wave Sheaf Festival. And Enoch claims Yahusha's ascension had to be delayed to Abib 26. Where's the gospel report of Yahusha's activities for these very important yet unaccounted for 7 days? Is there a gospel report of these 7 days? Where is Enoch's report of these 7 days after the resurrection? Do you want to investigate? Must Yahusha wait for 7 cycles after his resurrection to maintain his uncleanliness before having contact with humans, i.e., meeting the woman at the tomb on the first day of the week, just after sunrise? In other words, where was Yahusha between his resurrection and Enoch's wave sheaf of Abib 26? I'm going to read that again. Where was Yahusha between his resurrection and Enoch's wave sheaf of Abib 26? There are many more questions that will need to be answered before all the evidence is exposed. Here is one. Would Yahusha be able to maintain uncleanliness for 7 days with no human contact? I'm going to ask that again. Would Yahusha be able to maintain uncleanliness for 7 days with no human contact? We shall see. This is the end of part 5, and we're going to be answering that question. Would Yahusha be able to maintain uncleanliness for 7 days with no human contact? We're going to be answering that question at another time. Future studies still to be addressed. Does Enoch have any witnesses that Yahusha wasn't touched by humans until their Abib 26 wave sheaf requirements were completed? What does the scriptures have to say about that? Would an investigation on the red heifer have any answers? For sure and for certain. And what about Paul's witness in the timing of Yahuwah's Pentecost count? Was his count on a locked or unlocked calendar? Now that is a question. Huge, very, very important. There are still many witnesses for comparison and consideration. This is the end for today. And if you have any questions, there's where you can get a hold of us, both Charlene and I. Charlene's name should be up there. Not sure why it's not, but it isn't. And thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Okay, I'll bring down this stop share.
Wow, Tim.
Calendar. The calendar email it toward you, the tribes will get to me. So I'm up there.
All right. Great teaching, Tim. Thanks for that. Were there any questions or comments that people wanted to make?
Oh, questions. That's good.
Oh, we'll do
I
a
think it was
quiz.
exceptional teaching.
You're getting thumbs up.
I like that. Thank you, Jose.
Casey?
And- There's,
Yeah,
you got to remember,
Tim.
thanks Charlene too, man. The amount of work she puts into this too is phenomenal.
Definitely.
Ashley says, is there any way to get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, it will be posted on our website, studythecalendar.com, coming up.
Amen.
Usually takes several days, and Neil does a fantastic job of getting that up there, and Mario does a fabulous job of providing it.